Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to take a deep dive into settings, how they came about, how they work, when you use them, how you can make your own, and basically go fully into them. Now, if you're going to be good at RaceStatsApp, there's only one way to do it, and that's watch all the videos that are on this channel from beginning to end. Not the first 2 seconds, then another couple of seconds a bit later. If you want to be good at it, watch them all from beginning to end 2 or 3 times, 4 or 5 times if you have to. Everything is in these videos that you need to be good at RaceStatsApp. The reason I'm making this video is to give you a background as to why we made settings and how settings became about. Okay, so now let me start this by saying when RaceStatsApp started, what we did was we only played preferred meetings. Okay, preferred meetings are meetings that have happened on this day, whatever day it is, Thursday, week 25, and every meeting that's happening today is a PF meeting. Now let me give you an example. I've already gone and looked up one to find one. It was the 21st of June. And I found all these. So let's go 21st of June here, so I can show you. Oh, we want to be in Bet Finder, and 21st of June, June 21 is week 25 and day 4. So week 25, day 4, play. And if we go in to look at track, we can see Ripon, Uttoxeter, Ascot, Hamilton, Wexford. All of these have happened at least 7 times on this day. And if we look at the day sheet, and that's why I selected the date here, because that opens the correct day sheet, you can see the meetings. So there's Ascot, Hamilton, Newcastle. Okay, that's not in there. So Newcastle is in a PF meeting. Ripon, Wexford, and Worcester. Okay, Worcester's not in there. So let's go and have a look to see if Worcester is somewhere in here. Worcester, play. So basically what I'm showing you at the moment is PF meetings, how you find them, and how you know they're PF meetings. Okay, here we go. So it was spread across the week. There was a Wednesday here, so Wednesday again, and we'll see what week it was. It was week 26, so it was a week later. Now why I showed you that is because when we used our first settings, there was no settings originally. Okay, so let's go and make no settings. We'll make one of them no settings at all. Turn everything off. Yep. Turn all of these off. So let's pretend there's absolutely no settings. Okay, so when a race happened, what we had to do was go, oh, it's a handicap. So we'd go track, Hamilton. That's why these are here, and that's why they're still here. So we'd go Hamilton. Whoops, Hamilton. Then we'd go 1 mile 4. Then we'd go type is a handicap. Then we'd go runners is 8. And then we'd play. We would have to do that for every single race. So as a race started, we would have to go through and do that. That is probably why some of our old long-termers are very good at reading heat maps, because they know that, oh, I used to use 7 when it was a 8-runner race, 7 to 9 when it was an 8-runner race, or it's a 4-runner race, I used to use exactly 4. So this is how basically we used to set it up for every PF meeting. If it wasn't a PF meeting, what ends up happening is you just basically had no data here, because we're picking the day, the date. Oh, sorry, I forgot to pick the day. We also had to pick that, and we also had to pick the week. So 25, and we'd go plus 1 week. Okay, so that's everything we'd have to do for the race, and we'd learn that what the answer was before I selected date, what the answer was before I selected the weeks, what the answer was before I did the runners, and we could see it building and growing. So that's how we old-timers basically learned how to use the settings, well, how to use the filters to make our sandwich bar. We didn't have heat maps back in those days either. So that's how we learned everything. And that's probably why we've built up a good understanding of how to use it and what we're seeing. So, there was variations on this too. People used to use, say you turn the week off, or you know that there was 2 days that the meeting was spread over before, or whatever else happened. So as you set them up, you could just change them to suit what you had found out from BetFinder in the morning, right? But that was a real pain when there was a 60-day race or a 40-day racing. You couldn't set them up fast enough. Basically, as soon as you'd watch the race finish, you'd be running around. So what we did is we created settings, and we only created the one setting, right? So that setting was plus on. And to stop having to go in there lots of times, we put plus -2, plus 1 week, and we left day on, and we saved that. Okay, so now when we went to a race, it would automatically load all that information for us. That's all that setting does. It just does those filters for you automatically, so you don't have to spend all that time selecting them, right? But you have to know that it's plus or -2, right? So if you're looking at a 3-runner race, you're going from 1 to 5. If you're looking at a 12-runner race, you're going from 10 to 14. If you're looking at a 25-runner race, you're going from 23 to 27. Obviously, in a 25-runner race, you can have plus or -5, plus or -6. If you're in a 3-runner race, you don't want any more than +1 at the most, if not just 0. So that is why the settings are there, and why we learn to read them. So you have to be able to understand what you're seeing there. Now, if you wanted to, you could make just a PF, three settings just for PF, which I've already done. So I want to import that now. Save. And now I have 3 settings for PF, just PF meetings. Okay. Day of the week off, these 2 on, plus -2. Day of the week on, plus -2, plus -1 week. And finally, exact runners on. So that is 3 settings that I have just for PF now. I could probably have another 3 for 25 runners, another one for, I don't know, whatever, but I could probably have 5 or 6 different ones there. But 3 would be enough to just do PF. Right, so now we have a really good bunch of heat maps for PF. So we'll just pull that up over here, and we'll put that, and we'll move S3 there, S2 there, and S1 there. And we'll just make them a little bit narrower so we can see them all. We'll leave them at that. I'm just going to make these 50% for now, so they're all green, so it makes it easy to explain. Okay, so now we have, hang on 1 second. Yeah, sorry about that. What I wanted to do was, I had these settings not quite right, so I wanted them all to be plus 1 week. This one, settings 1, is all runners, regardless of how many it is with the day of the week off. Settings 2 is plus 1 week again, but plus or -2 runners, day of the week on. And the last one is plus 1, and we want exact number of runners. So hang on, yeah, runners off, 2 plus 2, and exact number of runners. Okay, save that. And now let's just see that I'm getting what I want now. Yeah, I am. Okay, so here we have the first race. And now, instead of having to go through and set everything up and choose my filters, I have all 3 filters here that I have made from, let me just move that so you can see the runners. So you can see they all do what they're meant to do, plus minus 2 runners, all runners, and the track without the day, track with the day, track with the day, but equals smart number of runners. Now, and I have the heat, and I made these a bit smaller so I could actually see the runners here. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. Okay, so here we go with this one. Exact number of runners never happened. This one here was, I can't remember, S2 is plus or minus 2 on this day of the week. So with plus or minus 2 on this day of the week, nothing, and finally that. So the only one we have any information is S1, because the only 2 races that we have are 12 runners and 5 runners. So we've never had, 12 runners and 5 runners. So today's 5. I just realized we're looking at Worcester. So Worcester is that track that we had to look either side, and it's used as different days, and we've got day turned off for S1. So that's why we've got 1 and 12 and 5 in there. So as far as today, in a handicap chase at Worcester at 2 mile 4 with 5 runners, has never happened before. So let's go to another race. Okay, now we start seeing a picture build up. Okay, so here we have all 3 of these are set to PF, remember? Let's just go through those again. 1, that, and that. So it's all very finite. It's all looking exactly at the week that we're in, and a couple of them are looking at the actual day. And all of them are looking at the runners, whether it be plus or minus 1 or 5. So now we start learning how to read these, because we're looking at 3 and 4 here, and we go to there. There's only the 1, 3 and 4 there, and 3 and 4 that way. Those 2 don't change that much. But when we go to exact runners, we've only got the 1 race. But 9, 7, 10 runners, so plus or minus 2, we've got quite a lot. And plus or minus 1, we've got quite a few as well. But we've got more in plus or minus 2 than we have anything else. So we're looking here, 1 minute. Just wanted to move that so we could see the actual BSP. So there's the BSP 368. So now when we look down here, we can see for the exact number of runners, we've only had a third. Here we've had a favour and a second, right up here. And way over here we've had these. Hang on, now let me just make sure you understand these as well. 100% understand these. This 0% is today's prices. So if we look at 5th favourite here, for example, 5th today is 11.27. Last time 5th won, it was 15% cheaper than it is today. In other words, it's paying more today than it did when it won. So if we look at 5th over here in S2, and 5th favourite, it was paying 10, and today it's paying 11.27. So 11.27 is in this column, and here it is paying 15% less when it won. 4th was paying 20% less than it won. This is telling you, these 2 are telling you, right, that it is paying, the punters are less likely not thinking it will win as much as they did think it would win when it did. In other words, the price is higher than it was when it won. But remember, we're looking at plus or minus 2 runners here, right? And then we've got 3rd. Well, 3rd's won at a higher price, a much higher price, and it's also won at a much lower price. The 3rd today is 5.90. It has won at 5.20 and 10.50 and 7.53. So 5.20 a fair bit a little bit cheaper, and then a lot more at 10.50 and quite a bit more at 7.53. So that's why that's there. Now 2nd today is 5.58. It's orange. The reason that row is orange is because that price and that price are within 10% of each other. Yeah? So if I turn that to 50%, then I have a lot more orange lines. So that would be within 50% of that, that's within 50% of that, etc. So the orange line is telling us that second and third are the same price, almost. So yeah. So anyway, 558, and today it's 558, and when it won, it was 430. So it's quite a bit higher too, and so is the favorite. So there's really nothing here saying what to do. You could probably go second and third, but the favorite is a little bit more today. I mean, it's 368, and when it won, it was 239. So it's a fair bit more. But it's definitely a top 3 winning race. So is it worth playing? I mean, let's have a look. We could do something like this, I guess. So I'm going to risk $3.60 to make maybe $1.12, £1.12. So I'll make 2. So I'm going to risk $3.80 to win 2. So let's do that. Run race. And the favourite did win. Then we go to the next race. It's Worcester, which is a non-PF meeting. Let's just move those so we can see they're all roughly in the same place. They're all centered. This one's a bit more runners. We want to see a bit more. Okay, so again, exact number of runners hasn't happened. Plus or minus 2 on this day has only happened once. So S2 is day on and plus or minus 2 runners. S3 is, and S1, which is this one at the bottom, we've got 14, 11, 9, 6 runners, all sorts of number of runners here. Again, looking at the runners, knowing that this is the closest we've got is plus or minus 2, you'd be thinking 8th, there's an 8th there. I mean, it's a ballsy bet if you do have one. But what's 8th paying? It's paying 15. And it's got up to 200 in the past. I mean, it's really not telling me enough. I'm going to skip this, but let's have a look what happened. And let's put a bet on there for 100 IR. And run the race. It did win 840. Didn't get to 100 though. Didn't even get to its BSP. So let's go to the next race. Again, only top 2. Top 2 here. Nothing here. Top 2 are paying nothing. So I don't play these races. For me, the first thing I do is I look to see if that's over 11ish. So I go down and say, oh, what's over 11? Oh, 5th's over 11. 6th is over 11. Okay, then I go down here and say, oh, 6th, no 6th, no 7th, no 8th. Yeah, no value. So run race. Favorite one. Okay, now here's a classic example. There's 26 runners here, and the maximum we're looking at in either of these is plus or minus 1. 2 rather. So, you know, there's 24. But we know this race at Ascot's been run lots of times. So, you know, if I went and put in plus or minus 5 runners, I'd probably get a lot more. Let's go and do it so you can see. In S3, for example, let's go runners 5 and minus 5. Save. And switch back to it to set it. And there we have it. Okay, so here we have a 9th. We have the favourite today, a lot more expensive than it has, cheap, a lot more expensive today than it has been in the past. Second's one either side of it. Thirds are close. 9th has come very close as well. 9th is going to be good value. So there we go. We're looking at that now. What for these I recommend you do is go into BetFinder, go to Ascot, day 25, week 25 rather. and big fields 18 plus, and have a look what's happened in there, and what sort of race is it. It's a 5 furlong group 2. So group 2, group 2, group 2, group 2. Play. Okay, so once way back here, but basically you're looking at top. Well, we already know what 2023, so that's cheating. So we need to turn 2023 off, really, because we didn't know that had happened. But if we're looking across, we can see that basically for these big fields, it's the top 3 with the occasional outsider. So let's go to another race. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to do is just get you to understand settings and what they are, and be able to understand you can change them and move them around and do whatever you want. The reason there ended up being 3 of them was not so you could have 3 settings just for PF. It was because people wanted to play more races than just PF races. So they thought, I'm going to have these settings for all-weather tracks. I'm going to have these settings for afternoon, evening racing. I'm going to have these settings for jumps, right? So when they're not PF. So what we did was we created more ways to make more settings for people so they could find different settings to suit whichever type of race they wanted to play. That means they could go into training and go, oh, I'll try these settings for all my all-weathers. I'll try these settings for all the non-PF meetings, right? And so that's why they actually ended up being 3 instead of just the 1 we started with, which would have been fine if everyone wanted to play PF. But as you know, yesterday, for example, let's look at Tuesday, which was the 27th of the September, 26th, which was a Tuesday. Well, we want to look at yesterday. So it's midnight. So let's see. And look at track. And you can see of those meetings, yesterday's meetings, there was, what was yesterday? Monday. Track. Down Royal, not there. Or again, we can turn off 23. And we can see Kempton, Hamilton and Leicester have had more than 7. So on this day there would only been 3 tracks people could have played, and again it would have been depended on the runners, how many runners and the race types as to how many of those could actually be played with a PF. So that is why we ended up making 3 more, or 3 settings, so people didn't have to go through and choose over here every race what they wanted to do. They could preset it and then just switch to here to look at the race. So they'd have their all-weather ones there, they'd have their PF here, and then whatever else they wanted to have there. Now the reason we ended up going with default was to make this auto score, was to get a bigger picture of how all of them. So let's get back to default. And play, and you'll see S2 is just always full of them. S2's always got a lot, and the reason that is S2 is more looking at just, so it's only looking at the distance and country, plus 16 weeks, and the exact number of runners. So it's looking at the exact number of runners. Now the reason that actually exists, and the only reason it exists, is for the BSP. It's for the program to be able to look at BSPs compared to all the other BSPs. All right, so it's not worrying about track or type. It's not worrying about track, type, day or week. The only thing it's worrying about is distance, and that was just to have something to give us a reference for the odds. Yep. So not the greatest tool to use when you're looking at your heat map. But if it's okay to use, if you remember, that's what it's telling you. At these odds and on the same distances, this is what happens. Now you might want to do one with the same type of race. To me, the type's the most important. All right, number of runners, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, depending on how many runners there are. It's probably the second most important. Then the track, and then lastly I'd have the day of the week before anything else. So to me it would go, the order of importance is runners, type, race type. If you go into BetFinder and spend your time in BetFinder, you'll see why race type is so important. Distance to me is not that important. Plus or minus 1 furlong in any race over about 1 mile 2 doesn't really matter. Track is the next most important. As you know, some tracks are uphill, downhill, over dale, so that's the next most important. So the reason S2 is this in default is because of BSPs, and it can give you a good idea of how strong a BSP is for a favourite. As you can see, it's saying up here, no favourite, no favourite, and then this is saying 4. This is saying top 2 with a 4th or a 5th. This is saying 4th or 5th. Okay, hopefully this video has cleared up what you're using your heat maps and sandwich bars for, and why your settings are important to you, because you are setting them up for what you want to use them for. So if you want to use them for all weather, because that's the only time you're playing, go in there and work out your settings for all weather. If you just want to play PF, go set up 2 or 3 just for PF and don't play anything else. Hopefully that explains that. And now, for once and for all, you know for sure that today's price is 0%. They are paying less today for these ones here. They're paying less today than when they won. And for these over here, today it's paying more than when they won. So basically, the more they're paying, the less the punters like it. The less they're paying, the more the punters like the winning. Right? So chances are it's not going to be a favour or a second win this, because I'm going off S3, which is the PF one. So we're thinking they really like the 3rd and the 4th. So not that I'd play it because there's no value in it, and I'd lay that. 5th one. Could have put that in there as well. What would have hurt? So hopefully you 100% understand why we have settings, what they do, and why we have heat maps and how to read them. Sorry that was 31 minutes long, but that's what it needed to be. Thanks so much.